The long wait for Euro 2020 is finally over. In the build up to the big kickoff, we are doing something special. We have scoured the Twitterverse to find a representative from each of the 24 nations competing in this summer's European Championships. We will be recording a preview with each representative who will be sharing views on their nation's hopes and expectations throughout the tournament, and most importantly, the fantasy assets we should be looking out for. Welcome to Euro 2020 Happy Hour. Hello and welcome to our Euro 2020 preview series with myself, Sham, otherwise known as FPL 2 Guys 1 Cup on Twitter.
And myself, Rob, otherwise known as FPL Panda.
Rob, tonight we've got our penultimate guest, and they are representing a country that are the current World Cup winners, and that is France and Guillaume. Guillaume, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you, guys. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you for having me tonight.
No, thank you for joining us. We both really appreciate it. I guess before we start talking about France, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, how you pronounce your name properly, because I'm sure I haven't got it right, what football team you support, if you play FPL, just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So yeah, my name is Guillaume, so I know it's difficult to pronounce for English people and people outside France in general. And yeah, I am a big fan of football. My team is Olympique Lyonnais, which is a team that plays in the Ligue 1. So for those that are not really aware of this club, we beat Manchester City in the last final eight, not this year, but last summer in Portugal. In the quarterfinal, and we also have, I think, a good reputation in terms of young player, because amongst the big names that came from our academy, we have like Karim Benzema, Lacazette, Fekir, Umtiti, Tolisso, and the most recent one, Oussem Aouar, which is going probably to the Premier League this summer or into Serie A or something like that. So, and obviously I support France for major tournament like the Euro. So yeah, pretty excited about this one. And I play FPL. I finished my 6th season this year, which was not as good as the last one, but I didn't have much expectation about this season. So yeah, we go again next season and hope for the best.
Nice. How did you do in the end?
I finished 48k.
Okay, nice.
This season, yeah.
Still good.
Yeah, still good. But season I finished 3k. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Big of a difference. Exactly.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, let's talk about France then. How did you guys do in qualifications? I know it was some time ago, and we will talk about the Nations League and the World Cup qualifiers soon. But for the qualification, how did you guys do?
I think pretty good. We only lost points against Turkey. Because we lost, I think the game was probably Istanbul away, and we draw at Paris. I think the main reason is we probably underestimate a little bit Turkey, and me as well. I was kind of impressed about this team when we played against them. And I know we are not here to talk about Turkey because you already did that, but I think it could be one of the surprise of the Euro. And also because some of their players were playing for Lille in the Ligue 1 this season, and Lille won the championship ahead of Paris Saint-Germain, which was kind of a surprise. So I was able to watch them closely, and yeah, so still good. We finished at the top. Yeah, it's difficult to talk about the qualification because I don't know if it's the same in England or other country, but I have this feeling like there is a common thinking in France, like nobody really cares anymore about qualification. I don't know if it's the same in England, but I think it's because the groups tends to be easier now than before, and because we are a strong team, we are kind of pretty sure that we are going to play the next World Cup and the next Euros. And there is another thing. It's after we won the World Cup in 2018, I think a lot of people expected from Didier Deschamps, our manager, to kind of change the style play of the team. But he didn't really change, and he is a very conservative manager. And because he is our manager for almost a decade now, because he took the team after the Euro 2012, I think for some people it's kind of boring because like you watch always the same game. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think it's more if someone would like to have a good idea about France before the tournament and watch some games, I would advise maybe to watch the games in the Nation Cup because we played against Sweden, Croatia, and Portugal. And I think it's more relevant and maybe more accurate to analyze these games rather than the qualification for the Euro.
Yeah, I think that's what we found as well. I mean, in relation to your point about the bigger nations like England caring about qualification, I think the general consensus is no one really cares about international football nowadays unless it's the World Cup or the Euros.
Exactly.
A lot don't care about the Nations League either, and it's pretty much like a formality. You know, let's get to the
Exactly.
Euros and let's get to the World Cup, and then we can be excited. What do you think, Rob? Because I know you go to the England games. Is that your kind of thoughts or not really?
Yeah, the qualifying, I do find it tough. Like you'd think you'd enjoy going out to Wembley and like watching England score 5 goals against someone, but it's not. The most enjoyable part's the drinking before.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, the Nations League, I think, it's almost like a relief because the games, yeah, it's tougher, but the games are competitive. You're playing against teams that are that sort of same level as you, and we've seen some great games across the Nations League competitions for the last few years, and yeah, that I quite welcome them, even though people say, "Oh, yeah, it's just another competition." It's like that's reducing the number of friendlies by having the Nations League, and I think I've enjoyed that, although the bigger teams generally don't benefit as much from it. It's just another competition. Whilst, like we've spoken to several of the reps earlier on in the series, and there was 3 or 4 of them that have all benefited quite hugely from the Nations League by qualifying for this tournament through it. So, yeah, I can see why some people don't like it, but as someone that enjoys going to watch England play, I prefer having these more competitive games than like if we got round to the autumn internationals or the spring internationals and you're playing 3 friendlies against someone rather than 2 Nations League games and a friendly. Like I know which I'd prefer, to be honest.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So how did France do in the Nations League then?
Pretty good because, as I said, we were with Portugal, Sweden, and Croatia in the group, and we won everything except we drew against Portugal. I think it was at home or away. I'm not sure, but yeah, we 5 wins, 1 draw, and top of the group, and we are going to play the final 4 of the National League. I think it is September or October. The semi-final is against Belgium, and I think the 2 other teams are Italy and Spain, if I remember well. So
is it still going on, the Nations League? Oh, I thought it was because didn't England get to the semi-finals? Was that the last one?
That
Did
was
we
the
not
last
qualify
one.
then?
That was the last
Okay.
one.
I get. See, this is how much attention I
But
pay to
if
international.
from that tournament in the autumn, that whoever wins that tournament will be the first qualifier for the next Euros.
Okay.
Like a couple of months after the end of this European Championships, which would be crazy.
Okay, so your recent form in the World Cup qualifiers, how's that been?
Pretty good. I think we play 3 games. We won 2 games and we did a draw. But as I say, it's like for the qualification for the Euro, because the groups seems to be maybe a little bit weak. And so, and especially this year, it was even more difficult for me, especially to watch international football because of the stadiums with no fans and everything. So I watched them, but to be honest, I remember the games against, it was against Kazakhstan, if I remember. I was like watching the game and doing something else in the same time. I was not really focused, to be honest. So yeah, this is why I'm really excited about the Euro, because it's a proper competition. So, and especially with our group.
So after winning the World Cup in 2018, what's the current kind of hopes for France now? Because everyone in England and around the world are kind of saying that France are the favourites and they should be winning. I know at the beginning some of the bookmakers were saying England are the favourites and whatever, but that, you know, I think we know we're not the favourites. I think, you know, France are the genuine favourites.
If you walked into a French bookmaker, France would be probably odds on to win the tournament.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, probably.
What's kind of the feeling? Do you feel coming into the tournament that you are the favourites and you should be winning it, or?
I think I am more excited than confident, but I am confident, but it's a strange feeling, because I think if you ask people 1 month ago, before we knew that Benzema was back in the squad, I think a lot of people would have said then like France is a favorite, and now even more because we have Benzema back. And I don't really like to be in this kind of position where you are the team to beat and you are like the big dog of the competition, because it doesn't really suit us if we go back to some of the competition before that. And I prefer when we are like in a group of 5 or 6 teams that can win the whole thing, but like we are at the same level than them, you know. So it's difficult to say. I have to be confident, obviously, because we won the Cup and we get to the final of the last Euros, but it's very difficult to win 2 major tournaments in a row. Spain did it 3 times recently, but their team was unbelievable. We did it in 1980 and the Euro 2000, but yeah, different times. I don't know. It's difficult. What do you think, you guys, about it?
It's difficult. I think France are the favourites.
Yeah.
Although I really like Italy. I think they're coming into some really good form at the moment.
Me too.
But I think it will depend on how that group pans out, as to, you know, what's going to end up happening, because obviously depending on how that group pans out will change the shape of the draw and stuff. I don't know. What do you think, Rob? France favourites?
Yeah. I think if you look at the squad, and we will shortly have a look at the whole squad for France, I think man for man, the depth in the squad, you've got world-class players in pretty much every position. I think you've got one of the best forwards. Well, I think the forward line is full of sort of top 10 forwards in the world: Griezmann, Benzema, and then you've got Mbappe, who's comfortably, like, if Ronaldo and Messi weren't still playing, Mbappe would be miles ahead of everyone else. But he's in that group with Ronaldo and Messi, and I think he's got the potential to be just as good as them over the years. He's still very young as well. Like, it's hard to believe that it was the last World Cup where he kind of really made his name 3 years ago. He was 18, wasn't he? At that
He was
last
19 last. Yeah, 19.
So yeah, he's 22 now, and we're going to see him probably for the next 15 years.
Yeah, probably
playing at that level. And I think they're scary. They are the team to beat. But we've also seen, like at the last Euros, that in a one-off game they can be beaten.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, like Portugal played probably one of their best games that they've played in years to win that final, and without their best player for most of the game.
Exactly.
So that everyone's beatable.
Let's talk about the squad then, and the squad announcement. Obviously, there was one big surprise in there, and that was Benzema. I guess before we talk about him and what he brings to this French side, and kind of if there were any other surprises from your point of view, did you ever think that he would come back in?
No. I remember because I think it was 3 weeks ago when we get the list, and the day before, I think no one was expected to see him in the list on the Tuesday. And when I woke up on Tuesday, I start to receive like notification from friends and a famous newspaper in France that just announced that Benzema will be in the team, and nobody believed it at the beginning. And like 1 or 2 hours ago, it was like, yeah, Benzema is back, like it was normal. And his last games was in October 2015, like almost 6 years ago. And it seems like it was impossible to see him back with Deschamps as our main manager. But I believe they talk, they meet in Madrid, they had a good talk. And after that, Deschamps told him, like, you will be in the squad. Maybe you will be in the squad. It was not sure. But I mean, when you have Benzema available and no personal problem between the manager and Benzema, it was obvious that he could be on the team and on the starting lineup as well.
Was there any other surprises in the squad? Anyone else that you'd like to see in any places?
I would say Jules Koundé, because it was his first time he was called by Deschamps, but it's not really a surprise because he's one of our best defender. But he plays his first game last week against Wolves for first friendly. But other than that, as I said before, Deschamps is a very conservative manager, so it's not the type of manager that will have surprise in his list of. We have Benzema, but it was a bit different because it was for personal reasons and not for sportive reasons. But no, other than that, it's quite. We expect this squad, to be honest.
Okay, and before we go into kind of your main players for this French team, where would you say the strengths and weaknesses lie? I mean, an obvious strength is obviously your attack, but where are your weaknesses?
I think, and I will talk about that maybe a bit later. I think our weakest player is Benjamin Pavard, which is our wide back. Because the thing is, with our defense, it was built before the last World Cup. And we had at that time Varane and Umtiti at center backs. And after that, Deschamps decided to put Hernandez left back and Pavard right back. But originally, Hernandez and Pavard, they are center back. But for Deschamps, it is more important to have wing back that are first good defenders, and after, if they can attack, it's good, but it's not the more important thing. You know, I think Hernandez and Pavard are like the opposite of Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool. It's not, it's completely different. But so I would say probably Pavard. And there is, I think I could give you almost the full lineup that will start against Germany next week. There is a slightly doubt about Pavard because I think, I believe Deschamps is aware that our weakness will be the right side of the defense. And this is why he played Jules Koundé for the second half against Wales last week. So I still think Pavard will start. I would say now it's 70% in favor of Pavard. We have our second friendly tomorrow at Paris against Bulgaria. So it will be interesting to see which is going to play at right back position. But I would say probably this weakness, the right flank of the defense.
Okay, so moving on to your team then, as an
Yeah.
11, who do you think starts? Because you did say you think you could name that. What would you say that would be?
Formation first. I think we are going to play in 4-4-2 diamond with a number 10 position. In goal, Hugo Lloris. No surprise, he is our captain. So defense, 4 at the back with Hernandez left back. Center back would be Varane and Kimpembe, who replace Umtiti, who he is not in the squad for the Euro. And as I say, I still think it will be Pavard right back, but there is a slight possibility that it will be Jules Koundé instead of him. For the midfield, there is, I think it will be N'Golo Kanté number 6 with Pogba on the right and Rabiot on the left. I'm not sure about Rabiot. I think there is a possibility that Tolisso plays instead of him, but it's more like it's like the Pavard Koundé call. It's like a 70-30 possibility. And after that, the attack with Griezmann at number 10 position and Mbappe and Benzema forward. I think it will be the teams that will start the Euro against Germany next week.
Do you guys generally struggle to break teams down, or
Yeah.
is that kind of where do you think that creativity is going to come from? Who are your kind of main players that are, if you're going to have a good tournament, you need these players to perform? Because I always kind of feel like France is one of those teams that will grind out like a 1-0 win. I know you beat Wales 3-0 last week, but they had a player sent off, and that
Yeah.
could kind of edge towards it. I don't feel like you're a side that will win 4-5-0
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
time. I don't know. You tell me.
I think we prefer to play a team that will keep the ball and we can play in counter-attack with fast transition and try to find Mbappe. When we play against low block opposition, we really struggle in that kind of games. I think the fact that Benzema is back in the team and is a starting lineup is very good for this kind of game because he's a very creative player. But as I said when I send you my talisman for the team, the most important one is definitely Griezmann in terms of playmaking and creativity.
Okay. So let's talk about Griezmann then.
Yeah.
He's the talisman that you picked. What does he bring to this side? Why is he so important for you?
Yeah. First one, if I can just tell you a little bit for just 1 or 2 minutes about
Of course, yeah.
some history about the French team, because I think it could be interesting. Every time in our history, when we performed or we won international tournament, we had this kind of playmaker playing as a number 10 position. The first time it was it's a long time ago, but it was in the 50s when we had Raymond Kopa, a former Real Madrid player. And he led us to our first semi-final of a World Cup. It was in 1958 in Sweden, and we were beaten by the Brazil of a young player named Pelé. I think you heard about him.
Yeah.
And after that, we had Michel Platini in the 80s, and we won the Euro 1984, and we went twice in the semi-final of the World Cup. In the 90s, we have maybe the most famous one with Zinedine Zidane, and we won the World Cup 1988 and the Euro 2000, and we went to the World Cup final in 2006 as well. And now I think it's the Griezmann era, and the thing interesting that happens with him is when Benzema was left out of the team in 2015. He was still a young player. It was not the talisman of our team, but because Benzema was not here anymore, he kind of stepped up and took his own responsibilities. And after that, his first major tournament as the main man of the team was the Euro 2016. I think it was the best player of the competition. Golden Boot winner with 6 goals. He also had 2 assists. And after that, for the last World Cup, nobody is everybody is not really agreeing in France, but I still think it was our best player in the World Cup as well. And he had 4 goals and I think it's 3 assists during the competition. So if you took the last 2 tournaments when he was our first man, he scored 10 goals, had 5 assists. So it's 15 attacking returns in the last 14 games for France in a major tournament. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if we are going to win the Euro, we need a very, very good Antoine Griezmann. Even if we have Mbappe, Kanté, Benzema, and all the other players, but the main man is Griezmann, in my opinion.
Yeah, because no one seems to be. I mean, I know we're talking about, general football rather than fantasy, but right now, but no one seems to be talking about Griezmann. It's all
Yeah.
about kind of Mbappe or
Yeah, exactly.
Benzema. But it's interesting to hear your opinion that actually Griezmann is really important to that side, because to be honest, I didn't really know that.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's the most important player of the team.
I think
Okay.
at that last World Cup, Griezmann was probably the most consistent player, but Mbappe stepped up at the big moments at times during the tournament, and that's what everyone remembers him, because he was so young and he stepped up at those big moments. But Griezmann in the final was brilliant.
Yeah, and also I think the thing with Mbappe is he scored twice against Argentina in the round of 16. We won 4-3, and it was against Argentina and against Messi, and it was kind of, okay, Messi, it's almost the end, that now is the Mbappe era that started with this game. So but I think when you watch closely the quarterfinals against Uruguay or the semifinals against Belgium, the most important player was definitely Griezmann.
Okay. So we've spoken about Griezmann and Benzema. We haven't spoken about the man that everyone's talking about, and that's Mbappe.
Yeah, sure.
What does he bring to the side? How important is he?
I think I like to call Mbappe and also N'Golo Kante. They are like our cheat codes because
The cheat code.
it seems to me like when they are at their best, it seems like nobody, obviously someone can stop them, but it seems like nobody can stop them. And I had the same feeling when I was watching the championship final. I mean, Kante was outstanding.
He was the best man on the pitch by far.
Unbelievable game. And I think it's the same for Mbappe. And Mbappe, which is interesting about him as well, is obviously a young player, but he also is already World Cup winner. He won a lot of things with Paris Saint-Germain, scored a lot of goals. But it's about his mentality, because his idol is Cristiano Ronaldo, and he has the same mindset about he want to make history in football. So it's I think everyone expects him to maybe win the Golden Boot of the Euro or stuff like that. But and which is interesting, it will be the dynamics between the 3 forwards, because we are going to play with Griezmann, Mbappe, and Benzema, and they are different players, obviously. But Mbappe will be probably the players that will finish the action. So maybe the players that will tend to score more goals than the two other ones.
Yeah, I was going to ask, with Benzema in the side, does that benefit Mbappe or not?
Yeah.
If we're now looking at it from an output point of view of goals and assists, is it like Benzema's taking away his goals, or is that literally going to actually help him score more?
I think Benzema is so happy to be back on the team and such a collective player. If he doesn't score any goal during the competition, it will be okay. He prefers to win the tournament. He's not very focused about goals, and he knows that the team was winning before without him, so he has to adapt to the other ones. But I think when you play with Griezmann and Mbappe, it's probably easier to adapt, because he has a very good IQ in terms of football, a very intelligent player. So it will benefit the three of them, I think, to play together.
Okay.
I think
Bef-
Mbappe, I think compared to that last World Cup, like I think you've got a more complete player now.
Yeah, sure.
Because at that last World Cup, I thought I watched a few highlights earlier of that World Cup, and it was very much get the ball down and run.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
his pace just scared people.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd seen anything like that maybe since Michael Owen
Yeah.
back in France in '98. That sort of pace running at a defence. But now, like seeing, I'm a Man United fan, and we've played PSG
Yeah.
6 times in the last few seasons. We seem to and he's just been brilliant. But every
Yeah.
time we play him, he gets that little bit better. And now he's got where before it was just running at people. Now he can he knows when to play that part. He doesn't just score goals; he creates goals.
Exactly. Yeah.
His positioning and his movement is absolutely brilliant. He scores goals with his left foot, his right foot, with his head. And it's unbelievable that he's only 22.
Yeah.
We've still got probably maybe 5 years until we see him at his peak, which is
Maybe.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I think going on to Benzema, I mean, he played with Ronaldo for 10 years. I don't think he cares about goals.
Yeah.
And his role in that side is for that experience that he's got. And you look at the role that Giroud played at the last World Cup, where it was very much like the ball comes into him and then he delivers out to back to Griezmann, out to Mbappe, looks for the players on the overlap. The idea, I think, is Benzema to do that, but he's bigger and stronger and able to hold off the defenders that are going to be coming into him a lot more, sort of in that centre forward position. And to
be fair, he's a big goal scorer as well.
Yeah.
He can score goals.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing. You take your eye off him to watch Mbappe, and before you know it, he's turned you and he's stuck the ball in the top corner himself, because he is a brilliant finisher. I think it was brilliant bringing him back into the fold, but it also showed that Deschamps knew what he was missing and maybe found Giroud. I mean, he's great at what he does, but the fact that he hasn't appeared often for Chelsea this season, and
big point.
Yeah, he may not be match fit. You can't expect someone to go into a major tournament without playing 90 minutes for their club all season. Whilst Benzema, on the other hand, has been playing week in, week out for Real Madrid and performing in La Liga.
Exactly, yeah.
Before we move on to looking at your group, are there any other players that you want to talk about that are really important to this French side?
I think we have the two cheat codes with Mbappe and N'Golo Kante, but I think we have like one important player in terms of leadership at every line of the pitch. We have obviously Hugo Lloris at goalkeeper. He is our captain, and last week he celebrated his 100th games as captain for France, which is a record for us at least. In defense, we have Varane, because he won everything with Real Madrid for Champions League. He played alongside Sergio Ramos for a decade now, so very experienced now. I think he learned a lot from him as well. In midfield, Pogba, I think he is very important for us. I know maybe some Manchester United fans won't agree with me, but I think he is a different player when he plays with France and when he plays for Manchester United. He seems to be more happy to play with his national team. I not follow Manchester United closely enough to know what's going wrong for him at Manchester, but he was very important as a leader for the last World Cup, and last one at the attack, Griezmann. I talked about in before. So yeah, it will be the 4 leader of the team, I think.
That was something I wanted to say was, I mean, we look at the team on paper and we've talked about maybe a lack of creativity. I think your most creative player may be Paul Pogba. Being able to like unlock a defence and create that, if you're struggling in a game, maybe produce that special moment. We've seen him time and time and again do that. And yeah, I mean, we have seen like he's had his moments at United and positive and negative, but yeah, like you said, for France, he always seems to just turn it on. And, I mean, that's one of the frustrating things as a Man United fan. You see him just become this completely otherworldly player when he puts on the French jersey compared to sometimes with United. Although this season we have seen him produce at United, I think, more often than not. So hopefully, yeah, we see a Paul Pogba that goes into this World Cup and like proves that he is one of the best midfielders in that sort of position. I think he's a weird position because he's not an all-out attacking midfielder. He's not a defensive midfielder. He's not box-to-box midfielder. He's just Paul Pogba. He doesn't have. I don't know how you'd compare him to any other midfielder around because it's very different to any other styles of centre midfielder. Maybe.
True.
Right, before we go through some detailed fantasy options, let's look at what everyone is calling the group of death. What is your thoughts on this group and how do you think it panning out?
It's a mixed feeling. It's a bit scary, obviously, but it's also very excited. And it's even more difficult for us, I think, because we are going to play Germany at Munich for the first game. And the second game, we are going to play Hungary at Budapest. And I'm aware a lot of people think Hungary might be the whipping boys of the group. But if I'm correct, I think Budapest will be the only stadium with full attendance for the Euro. And I have got ticket myself, so I will be there for the game.
Oh,
so,
nice. That's good.
Yeah, will be nice. But yeah, so we are expected 60,000 people for the game. So I think it can help Hungary. Even so, I think their best player, Dominik Szoboszlai, is out for the tournament. And last game, obviously, against Portugal. So the last World Cup winner against last Euro winner. So yeah, and also I think before we used to have probably the easiest group of the competition, because if we look at the last World Cup, we played against Australia, Denmark, and Peru in the group stage. And in the last Euros, we played against Denmark as well, Romania, and Albania. So totally different type of groups. And I think it will change maybe our dynamic, because I think for the previous tournament, the physical expectation of the team was at the best and at 100% after the group stage for the round of 16. But now, as we have to play Germany for the first group, we are going to be fit and to be at 100% for the first game, because I'm sure Germany will be at 100%. So it will be different. So yeah, as I said, scary, but also very excited to be in this group.
Do you see these games being like a low-scoring 0-0 kind of game? You know, in the friendly the other day, Spain versus Portugal, for example, we saw, you know, a 0-0. Do you kind of see all these games, I guess the games against Portugal and Germany, being 0-0, 1-0, 1-1 type of game, or do you see them being kind of like a 3-1, 3-2 kind of?
No, Germany, I think it will be like maybe 1-0 Germany, 1-0 France, or 1-1. And against Portugal, probably the same type of game. I don't see a lot of goals in these games, to be honest.
Okay, interesting. I guess 2 questions before we move on. Firstly, where do you think you'll finish in the group?
I hope first or second, even though I don't really know, because with the fact that the four third best are qualifying for the round of 16, it's difficult to have a vision about what the team we are going to play in the next stage. I will say first. Yeah, let's go for
Okay.
first.
And then the second question is, are you going to win the tournament?
As I said, I've seen a lot of prediction on Twitter, especially on social media, about who is going to be the golden boot, who is going to be the surprise, who is going to win the tournament. And I've seen so many times that people think France is going to win, with Portugal as well, maybe. So it's so difficult. I think, if, as I said before, if we have the same Griezmann as the last World Cup, I think we can win it. Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's talk fantasy then.
Yeah.
In this French side, obviously, a huge array of talent. I guess the first question we always ask all our guests, because as fantasy lovers, we always want to know, are there any players here that are out of position that you would say that the game has classified them as a defender, but actually they play midfield or vice versa, etc.?
Yeah, I think for the fantasy part, it will be quite boring answer. I'm sorry about that, but no out of position player at all. Just maybe I was surprised to see Ousmane Dembélé classified as a forward. I would have classified him as a midfielder, like for Coman and Lemar, because they are playing the same position. But Dembele is not going to start. He may be come on for 20 or 25 minutes, so I don't think it's an option for the Fantasy Euro.
Okay. Second question then. Are there any players that you look at their price and you think they're really overvalued or undervalued, or would you say they're all fair?
Undervalued is difficult because I don't know if it's because we won the last tournament, but I think all of our players are pretty expensive, at least for the starters. There is one, is if he starts instead of Pavard, is Jules Koundé, because he's only 4.5 million, but he's not sure at all. So I will have probably more information tomorrow after the friendly game. Other than that, I think the defender are pretty expensive, to be fair, especially Lucas Hernandez, because as I told you before, he's not very attacking. So I think you can only expect probably the clean sheets. Even though I would like to speak just about the defense just quickly, because I think a lot of people will probably avoid French defender especially for the first stage, and it's logical because we have a tough group, so you can't expect too many clean sheets. But at least for the second part of the competition, it can be interesting maybe to have a French defender, because I don't think a lot of people will have one. And if we take a look at the last World Cup, after the group stage, every defender has at least one attacking return. Lucas Hernandez, he has 2 assists. Varane has 1 goal. Umtiti, who was playing instead of Kimpembe, he had 1 goal as well, and Pavard has 1 goal as well. And historically, it's like the same thing like for the number 10. We tend to have a very important goal scored by defender in quarter or semi-finals. So if you want to take a punt on a defender after the group stage and expect a goal, maybe you go. I will probably go myself for Kimpembe, because he's the cheapest one of the starter. And I have the feeling, it's just a feeling. It's not based on stats or eye test or anything, but he never scored for France yet. And I have this kind of feeling that his first goal will come during the Euros. But it's just a personal feeling.
During the final as the winner, right?
Would be great.
He scored a couple of times against United for PSG.
Yeah,
twice
exactly.
He scored against us.
But it's
threat.
just a personal feeling, so we'll see.
Okay, so looking at options across the board then, if I'm a fantasy player that wants to look at France, where would you say that I should be looking, and who would you say are good options for France?
I would completely avoid the midfield. Maybe if you want, you can take Pogba, but I think there are better option and probably at better price. Even though he scored twice the last World Cup, and I think the last two he scored once and assist two, so it's not too bad. But I think with the return of Benzema, the goal will be between Benzema, Griezmann, and Mbappe, and the assist as well. So I would avoid midfield. Probably avoid Lloris as well, because I think there are better options at better price for goalkeepers. So maybe a defender, Kimpembe because the cheapest one, or Koundé if he starts instead of Pavard. And I will focus on the forward with probably at least one. I will have Griezmann myself, but just me, and maybe two if you really like the French forwards. But yeah, I will just focus on one defender and one forwards, or maybe two forwards for the fantasy game.
Yeah, so those three forwards. So obviously, Benzema is 10 million, Griezmann is 11, and Mbappe is 12. Which one would you pick? Do you think there is 2 million difference, for example, between Benzema and Mbappe, or one between Griezmann and Mbappe? Because there's going to be people aren't going to be able to get two, for example. Maybe you because you're French and it's kind of that loyalty, right? But most, if they are going to choose, will probably just choose one. So which one would you say will give them the best output?
I will probably choose Griezmann because of his record and because he will be on free kick, he will be on corner, and I think he will be on penalty. But there is a slight doubt about penalty because
I was going to ask you about this because I've seen Benzema was the last person in a very long, it's a growing list of players that are missing penalties for France.
We had a bad record recently, and it's interesting because just before we started the pod, I saw an interview of Didier Deschamps, and he did it with L'Équipe, which is our major sports newspaper in France and also a TV channel. And he was asked about the penalty, especially because Benzema missed the last one last week. And basically, he said that before that, and during the World Cup, Griezmann was taking penalties because he was also the penalty taker when he was playing at Atletico Madrid. And now, because he's playing at Barcelona, is not the case anymore because Leo Messi takes the pens. Mbappe is not taking the pens at Paris Saint-Germain because it is Neymar when Neymar plays, which is not always the case. And at Real Madrid, Benzema don't take the pens because it's Sergio Ramos. So my opinion is Griezmann is still on pens, but I think he missed his last 3 pens for France. Mbappe missed his last one, and Benzema last week. But when Benzema took the pens last week, he kind of looked at Griezmann and asked him, I can take it because it was my comeback and I want to score. And so I think it's still Griezmann, but it's not 100% sure, but I will put my money it's still Griezmann for pens.
Okay. Another question I wanted to ask is, match day 2 against Hungary, I believe it's match day 2, isn't it? A lot of people will be playing either the limitless chip or the wild card. With the limitless chip, you can choose, essentially change your team and have no limit. And a lot of people are going to be choosing 3 French players to play against Hungary. Which 3 would you choose? No limit. Would you go with a front 3 and just go Griezmann, Benzema, and Mbappe, or would you change it up?
I would probably take one defender and at least one attacker. And if you want to have three French players, I will take 2 attackers. So maybe if in defense, Kimpembe, if you are kind of short in terms of budget, and in forwards, I will take Griezmann, and the other one, Benzema or Mbappe. It depends what type of player you prefer, but I still think Mbappe is more the kind of player that will score the more goals for us. So maybe Mbappe, Griezmann, and Kimpembe.
Yeah, because I'm surprised that you said if you had one attacker, you would choose Griezmann, because a lot of people are just looking at Mbappe. If they're choosing one, it's Mbappe, and that's it. And I haven't seen any drafts with Griezmann. Is it?
Yeah.
Do you like, your honest opinion? Do you think that's your bias, or do you, for me, would you say, look, Mbappe should be in your side, but because you love Griezmann, that's the reason why you're choosing him?
It's kind of both. I think the fact that Griezmann will be on corner, freaking, and probably
Maybe
pens,
penalties,
and he is the playmaker. He kind of score, but he will probably assist if Mbappe score. And Hungary will be the game probably that we're gonna have difficulties to break their defense, because it will be a low defense block, I think. And this is not the type of games for Mbappe. This is more the type of games for Benzema or for Griezmann.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, and I think if you, I would probably be more confident to play Mbappe against Germany or against Portugal, because I think we are going to let them the ball and try to play counter-attack. And this is exactly this type of games when Mbappe can shine. I don't know if you watch the Champions League, the Paris Saint-Germain games against Barcelona and Bayern Munich, because I think it will be exactly the type of game we're going to have for France against Portugal and Germany. Let them the ball and try to play counter-attack. And I was very interesting to watch the video of your German representative, because I wanted to know what will be the defense and the center backs. And he said it will be probably Hummels and Rüdiger. I think Rüdiger maybe can contain Mbappe, but I'm not so confident about Hummels, because I think he is kind of slow now to contain Mbappe. And if we let the ball to Germany and play fast counter-attack, I think Mbappe can destroy Hummels, and it will be the same type of games. He can easily score 1 or 2 goals. I don't say we're gonna beat Germany and we're gonna beat them easily, but in this type of games, it's perfect for Mbappe. So it could be an interesting cap for the first game if you want something different than the other.
Okay, Rob, have you got any questions?
No, I was just, I'm glad we covered that match day too, and I think a lot of people are going to be on the limitless chip, and I was just thinking to myself, what 3 players am I going to have on that chip? Because I think everyone is going to have 3 France for that game. And I think that it might be a case of weighing it up. Do I want to bank on that French clean sheet and go 2 French defenders and just go Kimpembe and Varane and hope for a set piece goal? Or do I go 2 forwards and go? Yeah, I'm leaning towards Griezmann and Mbappe for that Hungary game. I can understand that. Yeah, Benzema might do better out of it. I just think from a we talk
FOMO.
about we talk about effective ownership. Like Mbappe's going to be the most captain player, and I think
Probably.
if he does score and you've got Benzema and you captain Benzema and he doesn't score, I think you're in the proverbial shit. Or
Probably.
or in the mud, should we say? I think, I'd love to, for that match day tour, I'd love to have go for the differential, but you kind of have to follow that. You can have the differential in going Griezmann or Benzema against whoever the crowd is going with, but you've also got to go with Mbappe because the crowd's also going to be going with him as well.
Sure.
Maybe the captaincy you could put it on someone else, but I'd be a bit scared to ignore him completely for match day 2. But I do like the idea of maybe going with him match day 3 if France, like we'd expect that group match day 3 there won't be much rotation from any of the teams, because we'd expect those big 3 to all be vying for the better position for the draw in the round of 16, and maybe that game against Portugal could be a bit of a blockbuster, where you've got both teams trying to go at each other to outdo whatever Germany are doing in the other game. And that could be a good one for Mbappe, because Portugal, we know their midfield likes to keep the ball.
Yeah.
Guillaume, is there anything else that you think we should know about this French side, either from just in general or from a fantasy point of view?
I think, as I said a lot of time, Didier Deschamps is a very conservative manager, and I think it's funny because I think if he was a manager of an England team, it will be the best friend of FPL manager, because he is the exact opposite of Pep Guardiola. So no Deschamps roulette with him. It will be the same team at every game, and no substitution before the 65, 70 marks. So you won't lose your clean sheet with defenders on everyone else. So yeah, I don't know if you have any other question, but
no, that's all. That's all the questions we've got. I was just going to say, if there's anything else that you wanted to add that you think is important to mention.
No, just this point about Deschamps.
Perfect. Rob, any final questions?
No, I think it's been interesting to look at the French side. I think there is questions like we've discussed over the midfield and the creativity. We've spoken about Paul Pogba, but 8.5, I think you can find someone at 7.5 or 8 million that will give you better value. It's a shame that ball recoveries aren't rewarded, because I joked with someone earlier that N'Golo Kante would probably be a 10 million midfielder if they were, because he'd be hitting double digits every match day if they were. And I think I think the French squad is a great squad. I'm just not sure if it's a great fantasy squad.
Exactly, this is the point, I think.
Like you say, it's very conservative. The defenders are there to defend. The midfielders are there to move the ball between the defence and the attack, and the attackers are there to attack. So if you're really wanting to bank on players, I think that front 3 are the ones to focus on. That's my takeaway from this.
Yeah,
exactly. And the defence are what looks like too expensive, because they may not get you those attacking returns, right? They're not the Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, like you kind of said.
Exactly.
Guillaume, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We both really appreciate it, and it's been great talking to you.
My pleasure.
Perfect. Right. To the listeners, thank you very much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share, and tune into our last installment on England soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.